Welcome, viewers. We are at the finale of my Mole Game Season 1. Tonight, we are joined by our final two players, plus our secret mole of the season. Plus, we are going to be joined by the eliminated players from over the season. Going into tonight, the players' pot stands at $113, while the mole's pot sits at $82. But that might change still tonight. This season saw 9 players come into the game, all to play a game filled with challenges, a chance to win money, and the special task of trying to figure out which player among them is actually a saboteur for the group, playing to earn their own money and stop them from earning more. To start this night off, I can let you know that we do have our two finalists in our mole hiding in the background, waiting to reveal themselves. So we'll find out who the winner is of the game and who exactly has been the mole through the whole game. But let's find out from the eliminated players first, who each fell victim through our game to the players quiz, and let's get a feeling of who they think the winner of the game is, who the mole is, and why. Um, so week one, the contestants were spared as Ryan had to leave the game. Following that, week two's victim was Anthony. Unfortunately, Anthony was not able to make it today. I did ask him who he thought. He hasn't responded, but if he does, we'll let you know. Chell said he was going to be joining us, but he's not here yet. So we're going to go straight to Brandon. Brandon, now that you know who the final three are, you did make it halfway through the game. Who do you think the winner of the game is, and who do you think is the mole, and why?
Well, who I hope the winner is Jonathan. And well, who I thought the mole was is sadly out now. So I think the mole is Heather.
All right. Tiffany, you weren't sure quite at the time of your elimination about the decision that you were going, but who do you think the winner of the game is, and who do you think the mole is, and why?
That's a tough one because I flip flop a lot on who it is. In my last week, I flip flopped and it didn't serve me very well. Um, it's tough. I think I'm going to go with what I thought in the beginning. I think Tina is the mole, and I think Heather is the winner.
All right. And Jessica, you got all the way to the final four. Um, so what would you like to lock in as your final decision on the questions of who the winner is and who the mole is and why?
Yeah, and I don't think my opinion on either of these facts have changed in the last few weeks. I'm still sticking with Tina's the mole, and I think Jonathan's the winner.
All right. Well, um, before we reveal who the mole is, I want to know from you guys, who are you most surprised to see didn't make it to the end of the game? You've also heard that Anthony and Chell didn't, but of course you guys knew that before you were eliminated. Anybody you guys are surprised that didn't make it to the end? No? All right. Oh,
Oh, I
go ahead.
am.
Okay,
I'm
Brandon.
definitely surprised that Tiffany didn't, and most surprised that Jessica didn't.
Because you thought she was the mole, right?
Yeah,
Sorry,
Um,
Brandon.
you
well,
were you were definitely making me the most sus.
well, what do you guys think was the move or the thing or the moment that put you in the wrong direction in the game? Maybe Brandon, Tiffany, like, do you have any regrets like on when you got eliminated? Do you think something happened that made you change your mind or anything?
I just second guessed myself, and had I not second guessed myself, I who knows where I would be.
I feel like definitely I should have tried maybe doing my quiz questions on Heather and Tina, dividing them, because clearly me putting all my guesses on I think it was Tiffany, or I can't remember, was incorrect.
Well, we're going to now reveal our mole. So I am going to ask very soon one of the players to turn their camera on and finally reveal officially that they are the mole of the first season. So, all right, mole, please turn on your camera and unmute. Congrats, Tina.
Thank you.
A game well played. You did remain off most people's radar until about week 3. Um, so I want to know first off, how hard has this been keeping your identity to yourself?
Uh, the worst part is during challenges, trying to find a way to steer everybody wrong and get the money for myself without being way too obvious about it. So I think it's a lot harder than people think it is.
Brandon looks shocked. Brandon.
Yeah.
Yes, you deceived me, Tina. You.
I don't think I ever came out and directly said that I was not the mole.
I trusted you the most.
I'm sorry.
Well, Tina, do you feel so one thing that happened in the game that maybe not everybody knows is Ryan is your son. I know that there was an unfortunate reason, but do you feel that that might have made your game a little bit easier to hide your identity, considering Brian would have been playing in your home?
Yeah, it definitely added another layer. Like, when am I going to do my interviews? How am I going to, where am I going to hide my little mole stuffed animal that the host sent to me? Um, it definitely would have made it a lot more difficult. But then on the other hand, I think he would have been on my side in not thinking I was the mole. Because he and I had a conversation very early, and I said I don't think I'd be able to hide it. So I can pretty much guarantee you don't need to look at me. So I think he would have been advocating for other people as the mole, and that might have helped.
Yeah. How much fun did you have playing the mole character?
Oh, it was fabulous. It was so much. This is the most fun I've ever had because I didn't have to worry about being eliminated. Um, I didn't have to stress about anything. I could just sit back and enjoy myself.
Is there any move or thing that you feel the most guilty for doing in the game?
Most guilty. I threw a lot of daggers at Jonathan, I think. Just in an effort to try and misdirect people and, kind of made him out to be the big bad wolf. While I wouldn't necessarily say guilt, but I don't want him to feel like I ever said anything hurtful that I really, really meant, and I don't think anything hurtful was ever said. It was mainly just misdirection and, talking about his molish behavior and throwing Brandon under the bus the way he did and things like that. So, yeah, so sorry, Jonathan.
Well, Tiffany, Jessica, how are you feeling knowing Tina is the mole?
I shouldn't have second guessed myself.
I mean, I'm happy I'm right. I think I just got beat by Heather's 1 point advantage in that final quiz really helped her. Um, but yeah, I think my gut was right for a few weeks there, and I know Tina and I had already t discussed this in a one-on-one, but I had kind of called her out quite abruptly, saying, "I know it's you." And I stand by what I said to her in that I did that because I wanted to rattle her right before the challenge started, and I wanted to see how she handled it, whether or not she would keep that to herself or if she would tell other people. I just wanted to see how she sort of handled that response. So, yeah.
Well, Tina, I am going to let you know that though you did start quiet, people didn't weren't quite on to you. At a certain point, people were, and you were actually picked 19 times as
Woo!
for the Who is the Mole.
Wow.
So that means $19 is being moved from your pot over to the player's pot. So your final pot, Tina, is $63. And congratulations on a game well played. You did really great.
Yay. Congrats, Tina.
Thank you.
Well, we know
Thanks.
the mole, and now we're going to have to figure out who the winner is. And now with that extra money, I can say that the final player's pot total is $132. We have two worthy players in the running to be declared the winner. We've got Heather and Jonathan. Please turn on your cameras. Oh, I don't see Jonathan, but his name, there he is. Wonderful. They did face off in the final quiz. I can reveal one player had a time of 18 minutes and 3 seconds, while the other player had a time of 25 minutes and 52 seconds. But the time doesn't matter unless we have a tie, and I can reveal that we did not have a tie. So I can reveal with a score of 16 out of 20, the winner of Phil's the Mole Season 1 is Jonathan. Congratulations, Jonathan, for playing an incredible
Way to
game.
go, Jonathan.
I was not expecting that. I knew some questions I messed up on. So
Way to go, Jonathan.
wow,
Awesome job.
Yay, congrats.
That's exciting.
Good
Thank you so
job.
much.
Wow.
Well earned.
Well, thank you. Incredible game and for winning that tough final quiz. Congrats. Jonathan, how are you feeling knowing now that you have won the game?
Great. I mean, I worked hard at this. This was a difficult journey for me to get to the end, especially nearing the end because of some personal things that came up. But each and every one of you helped me along the way. It was a lot of fun. So thank you so much, Phil. And I'm thrilled. I was not expecting this. I think I knew I got some questions wrong and I really messed up on it, but I worked my butt off for this. So I'm happy.
Well, you really honed in on Tina starting probably really around, I mean, she was always sort of up there, but round 3, it seemed. Was there anything that you can think of that really put Tina into your top suspect to look at?
When Chell left, I think it was just coming down to it's either Heather or Tina. And just on paper, it was, who's sabotaging, and little things that just weren't adding up just seemed to be Tina, and it just didn't make sense. And the mole, I always said, really positions themselves by volunteering. So I often took a lot of, charge at the beginning. I'm like, who wants to be where? Because I wanted to see who was volunteering, who knew what positions they wanted to be in to sabotage. And that was always more Tina than it was Heather. So once things started adding up, Chell made reference to an alliance early on. Not everyone knows who that alliance is. That's me as well. I was in that alliance with Jessica, and me and Jessica continued talking. And I was being fully honest with everyone, except for Brandon. I'm sorry. And and that was a pivotal week for me. I needed to be safe, so I needed to set someone up to make sure they were going the wrong way. Jessica really helped me out a lot as well. So bouncing ideas off of everyone. Tiffany in the beginning, we shared a lot of information as well. So yeah, I'm thrilled. So this is great. Thank you.
Well, we should also congratulate Heather for making it to the finals and coming so close to winning the game. Heather, you did play really wonderfully. In fact, Heather was the only player in the very first round to pick Tina, and she picked Tina every round as the mole. Heather, what was it about Tina that hit your radar so fast?
I thought she was just the quiet, sweet little lady from Wisconsin. And also, probably one of the first 2 nights when we were all leaving the call, I checked to see who would be last to leave. And on night 1 or night 2, Tina stayed. And started to chat to you, Phil, and I was like, oh, maybe she had a question, like something was up. But I didn't share that with anyone. I kept that to myself. And just a few things, like the hat game, when there was supposed to be a clue about the hat, I wanted to ask Tina, was the clue the fact that you took your hat off during the challenge? Or was that just coincidental?
I thought
No,
that was
the
going to be a
clue-
question.
Mhm.
The clue was my stuffed mole was sitting on a shelf behind me here to see if any eagle-eyed people could
Oh.
see it. Had nothing to do
Oh.
with my hat.
Yeah, it was funny the number of people that picked up on the hat like coming off, and well, Tina was the only one who took it off, and it was like,
I
nope,
starred,
that's
like-
nothing.
I was like,
Yeah,
after round one, Tina took off her hat.
Yeah. And so I did try to make a lot of big movements that night with the hat and everything, and just to detract away from my buddy sitting on the shelf behind me. So, and then was it last week, Phil? He was on the shelf right behind me here, like facing front, looking at everybody. And I'm like, wow, if somebody doesn't see that, that would be amazing.
I never seen it, so
How many times did you have him out?
I only guessed one,
Twice.
but twice.
Twice.
Yeah. I saw it the last time, but I
Yes.
didn't see it I didn't see it the first time. The hat night.
And
Well,
could you tell what it was right away?
Yeah, well, yeah. When I mean, I was already locked in, but yeah, yeah. Wait,
well,
I want to
wanna
know how
open
much.
open it
I
up
wanna
and
know-
ask questions.
Yeah, I want to know what Heather got on the quiz. Like, how close were we? You said I got 16.
You got 16. Heather ended up with a score of 13.
Yeah,
It was
we'll
a
figure out
tough
what-
quiz.
It was. I definitely guessed on 5. So when you said 16, I was like, I'm no, not me, because I guessed
Even
on
based
5
on
of
the
them.
time that it took you guys to do it, you could tell it was like that was a big time span.
Mm-hmm.
We were searching back in the notes.
Oh yeah, I wrote stuff down. I was like, I didn't write that down though. That's like, it's not just like 1 + 1 = 2. It's like you know you have to go through about 10 different things to get to the answer, and then like one of the steps I wouldn't write down. I'm like, oh no, it was hard. It was hard.
Anybody got any questions for Jonathan or Heather? All right. So I'm sure you guys want to know things like what Tina did in each of the rounds, and did I have any hints in the game? But before we do that, I just want to know, how is everyone feeling now that they know the final results of the game? Feeling
It was a
good?
great game.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well-earned win from Jonathan. Well played, Mole, from Tina.
little betrayed, but you know.
I'll be honest, and I said it in my interview with Phil. So every week I have a player interview and a mole interview. So I had to split personalities within the span of minutes. And I was so sure that Jessica was going to win this season because she is smart. She notices everything. Not that you two guys aren't. But, you know, having played a few games with Jessica before, I'm like, she's got this. She's got this nailed. She's got it figured out. So when she was eliminated, I was absolutely shocked.
I want to see how close that was, because I was, as much as I'm like, Heather or Jessica can absolutely beat me, especially in the final 4, 100%. I was like definitively worried about Jessica, because I'm like, I feel like Jessica, we spoke, and the memory of what you had was like so good, like your recall on things that had happened like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I'm like, I just don't have that memory. And I think you were taking great notes as well. So I was really surprised to see you go as well.
No, I'm glad you were surprised. I figured my time was up. I think I said that in my final interview with Phil. I was like, no, I think it's my time.
Well,
I mean, I knew we all knew who it was, but it was
Yeah.
at that point at Final Four. But I was like, yeah, I just didn't know. Heather, you know, also keeps her cards close to her chest as well. And
Mhm.
I think it was our last conversation that you admitted that you had known it was Tina, like for most of the game. So, or you've been putting Tina. So I was like, oh no. So your notes must be really specific, and you're
Mhm.
gonna have a great resource at the end of the game when we're taking the final quiz. So I was really worried.
Which is really funny because Heather and Tiffany, in the interviews with other people, people kept talking about how you guys were not taking notes.
Yeah, it
They
didn't seem
they
like,
were shocked that to know, and like you were taking notes somewhat.
but we
which
didn't
is
see
funny.
any writing.
Yeah.
When were you guys taking notes?
Heather's notes were meticulous. She shared her notes with me. Her notes are meticulous.
Heather, it never looked like you were writing down anything. Do you have a very good memory?
No, I wrote a lot of notes. I have a little novel here.
I feel like I was wondering the same thing. I'm like, maybe Heather at the end of the night then goes and writes down everything that had
Mhm.
happened. So because
I
same
wrote
thing,
down quite a lot.
like during or like after.
No, during. No,
During.
not after. During.
And something that made me suspect Tiffany a little bit, along the way earlier on too, was the fact that the note situation. I will say, was it Tina? I believe Tina mentioned, and oh, you had to go get a notepad when you had to write something down for a challenge. And that was like, that really made me think, I'm like, that is
The
true.
rest of the notes I was doing on my phone. So I have like
Oh.
no scrolls and scrolls and scrolls, but the one where we had to do with the numbers, it was a challenge with
with
the
Jessica.
numbers when Jess and I were in a group, and I needed a piece of paper because I couldn't do it on my phone,
Right.
but all my notes I have on my phone.
The first night, I thought there was 3 people that didn't write notes, and I made a note of that, whether they were or not. But these were my notes, pages and pages. There's a lot of
Pretty thorough.
pages here. Here, I'll show you. And some of them are double-sided. Well, it's a little blurry, but you get the gist. See? Pages and pages.
Wow.
And I did share with Tiffany one night. I shared with her the week that I was going to save her, and I didn't tell her I was going to use the mole power to save her.
Nice.
Well, we're gonna go through the
Jessica,
week.
did you ever share the mole power with Jonathan?
No.
No, you kept that quiet?
Yeah, I kept that quiet.
Oh.
Yeah, both Brandon and Jonathan didn't know what it was until it was announced that the mystery mole power.
And I
Right.
was worried
And
because
I
I'm like,
kept
Tina.
having to as well.
I was like, Tina's the mole. There's only 2 of us that can go this night. So it's either me or someone else. So yeah.
That was a good strategy that you threw Brandon off because you never know, it was not good odds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was a 50-50 night. And I knew that once that power was played, it was a 50-50 night. So I'm glad that I set that up for myself.
Yeah, I didn't want to give you any more of an advantage, Jonathan, so that's why I didn't tell you about it, because I was like, this is a really good opportunity to get Jonathan out of the game here, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Fair enough. And Tina, to respond to what you said earlier as well, you throwing stuff my way, I was loving it, because I'm like, if Tina's still in the game and she thinks it's me and I know it's not me,
Yeah.
it's definitively Tina. So there's no
That's what threw it
here.
for me when you guys had your little altercation.
Mhm.
That's when I flip-flopped.
Well, we're gonna go through the weeks. I just wrote some stuff up just so that you might have some either memories or things maybe you didn't know. But I will be putting all of the YouTubes up. I'm gonna do them each week. I'm gonna put you all back into the mole group and send the link, and then feel free to share that link with whoever you want. That's all good. Get them to do that, but obviously don't tell them who the result. Let them watch them all. And we'll just every so often I'll post another week's episode. So week 1, Tina did lay kind of low in week 1, letting others do some molish behavior. Players were caught off guard when Jessica and Jonathan figured out the piggy bank challenge quite quickly. And Ryan and Anthony created their own suspicion with the partner game exemption twist. Tina had to figure out how she would navigate with Ryan, her son, playing nearby, and was lucky to see that he was putting blinders on, as was Anthony, because of their traitors alliance. They kept going, and they completely, both Anthony and Ryan, were going the wrong direction, and I think they had ruled Tina completely out at that point. Heather, Chell, and Tiffany did pick Tina in their interviews, but only Heather made Tina her choice for the first week of who the mole is. Chell actually didn't answer most of his questions on Tina in the first quiz, and had Ryan taken the quiz and done okay, Chell would have been the first person that would have gone. Because he had the lowest score, with his focus being on Jessica in the quiz. But Ryan had to leave, and so Chell was spared. And Heather was the top quiz taker, with Anthony actually tying her score.
Ooh.
Week 2, Ryan was gone, so the mystery mole power was on the table, but more eyes were focused on the people that didn't spend the full amount to get the clue. In the interviews, people were kind of talking about the people who didn't spend the full amount. Despite Tina's odd choice of moon for an ice cream flavor, the team did figure out the correct door, costing her the exemption and kind of putting her badly in a motivating way for her to go for the exemption in the next round. In addition, Tina lucked out a little with her puzzle as Jessica and Tiffany struggled to complete their puzzles, taking some of the heat off of her. Tina had two funny ways that the sabotage took place. One of them did end up working well with the puzzle, while the other was a good attempt but just didn't end up working, at least though it kept her hidden from most of the other players. Chell and Jessica put more focus on Heather being the mole at that moment, while Tiffany joined Heather in directing her attention onto Tina. Anthony missed one of the nights and found himself with the worst score on the quiz, he was focused on Brandon being the mole at that point. In week 2, Tiffany was actually the top quiz taker. Week 3 was a tough week for the mole. The team really came together with no one trying to make any suspicion on them during the security guards challenge and the rock, paper, scissors mole challenge as well. In fact, the security guard challenge was a big breaking point for Tina, with players noticing Tina's actions for the exemption in the challenge and felt it stood out to them. Heather, Jonathan, Jessica, and Tiffany put all their focus pretty much on her as being their top person that they thought was the mole. And though Brandon focused between Jessica and Tiffany, it was Chell's decision to completely eliminate Tina from his main suspect list that cost him the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
One other note, Jessica noticed in the mole message this week that an American spelling of a word took place, cementing her belief that Tina was the mole. In week 3, Jonathan was the top quiz taker, thanks to his extra point, with Jessica and Tiffany also tying his score. Week 4, just before this week, Jessica messaged Tina and called her out. Tina decided the best strategy was to work with Jessica in the next challenge. In fact, the mole had a wonderful week in week 4, being the only one to put money in their pot, including coming up with a great message to trick Jonathan into trying to get a power that didn't exist. Week 4 saw the halfway point hit, the mystery mole power activated, and Heather decided it would make most sense to save Jessica and Tiffany, keeping who she thought the mole was in the 3 that could go, with Brandon and Jonathan fighting it out 50-50. Unfortunately,
Wow.
Tina continued to push Jessica in Brandon's ear, and with some extra pushing of Jessica's name from Jonathan, Brandon fell victim to the mole. In week 4, Jessica was the top quiz taker, with Heather tying her score. Week 5, everyone seemed focused on the mole, but a well-organized fake fight made by Tina towards Jonathan threw one of the players off their game. That said, luckily for the mole, the exemption challenge took place because the players were stars of all the challenges that week. Tiffany thought Tina was too passionate and angry to not be telling the truth and switched her focus over to Jonathan being her main target, a switch that took her out of contention. Jonathan was the top quiz taker in week 5. Week 6, the final 4 now had to best each other to remain in the game. Though they had tough breaks at my House of Fun, there was a lucky break of an extra point that helped Heather, but she didn't end up needing it as she scored perfect on the quiz.
Ooh.
A tie
Tender.
did take place between Jessica and Jonathan with a score of 9 out of 10, but Jonathan's speed in the quizzes paid off, with Jonathan's 1 minute 37 seconds
Oh my God.
besting Jessica's 3 minutes 48
A
seconds.
minute 30. Come on,
What?
Jonathan.
I knew that would be
Jeez.
someone's default. I said that in an interview. I said, I think I'm going to lose to Jonathan and it's going to come down to time.
Sending Jessica to spend her time with creepy Uncle Phil in his house of fun forever. The final round, with Tina still sabotaging, the final game had the final two working together and against each other. Though in their interviews, they felt that their opposition could have fooled them. They both knew Tina was the mole, and more so, they knew their opponent was going to be hard to beat. In the end, Jonathan won with a score of 16 out of 20 on the final quiz, while Heather scored 13 out of 20. A wonderful game played by the mole, where she was able to fool a few people and get some to drop their guard. Tina played a wonderful game, and Jonathan, with respect from all the other players, played brilliantly, controlling the pace of the game, the tasks, and keeping the game on track. A very worthy winner who made the game fun to play and to watch. Well done, Jonathan. Good job.
Bravo.
A couple of fun Phil things in the game. So in round 1, Tina was in the guacamole room. This would come into play as a clue later in the game. She was also the first player in the game put on the Zoom call on the first night, and the first player on the season 1 graphic on the left. She was in the first position.
Oh, is this why the special ingredient was avocado too?
You're jumping ahead. Round 2. Round 2 started with fun breakout rooms that, when using the first letter of each room, spelled out the word mole. If you continued with that format, using the words that were used in the Through the Door challenge as the words that they had to use to describe, the first letter for those words would spell TMITK, which was an abbreviation of The Mole is Tina Kriegel. Round 3, the mole had to have a mole stuffed animal sent to her by Phil in the background on Zoom. Round 4, the Anti-Mole Adventure Challenge was weirdly named. Anti is a word scramble of Tina. Round 5, in the Secret Agents Challenge, the mole chose aubergine, which is known for being purple. The mole's favorite color was purple. Round 6, in the kitchen challenge, the bonus ingredient was avocado. That would have scored money because this was the bonus and was also the clue relating back to the week 1's guacamole room. And in round 7, the stuffed animal mole had to be even more noticeable in the background on Zoom in that final challenge night. So let's just say I do hope to do season 2 next year at some point. I hope that you did have a wonderful time playing. This was a lot of fun to run. Congrats again to our wonderful winner, Jonathan, and to our marvelous mole, Tina. And before we go, any other questions about the game?
Jonathan, how did you not pick up those word scrambles? You picked up the most random word clues ever.
Here's the thing. I dug deep the first couple weeks, and I knew that it spelled out mole, and I was doing everything else. And then I gave up on that because I'm like, it's not there. It's just not there. But I knew Tina was in the guacamole room. I have that written down, and that did help in the final quiz. But so I was like, oh, I guess, this is not it. And so I was like, I'm not going to look that deep. I guess the clues aren't in this, and they were, but just later. So
Jonathan, you found 2 fun things that I didn't purposely happen, and then when I looked back, I was like, "Oh my God, that happened with Chell." You were thinking Chell might be the mole because on the how to play, the last word of mole, the LE is highlighted bigger for some reason. I don't even know why.
with
And
the
it had a
question mark.
question mark, and he thought
looks
that
like
it
a
was
C.
backwards for Chell. And then in the word search, there were a number of Chells in the word search, which was just happened. Just happened. So I
Yeah,
was kind of
when-
like, oh, I feel a little bad, but sometimes that happens. So-
When Chell left, I was like, I'm gonna lay off trying to look too deep into some of these things. Yeah. And I would say when Tina had the blurred background that one night, that's what really That was a pivotal moment for me, kind of really tipping it off, because I was like, wait a minute, I noticed that on the Monday and it wasn't on the Tuesday, and then it showed up on the quiz as kind of like a question. But yeah, I was pretty honest with everyone here, which I don't know, Heather, you kept saying that was like throwing you off because I was being too honest by telling you who my suspect was and everything. Did it really? Or
It threw me off in the sense that I just couldn't trust you, that you were maybe trying to like want me to believe it was that person, but I didn't fully know if you genuinely believed it was her, or if you were just trying to like, put something in my ear, even though I already
yeah,
believed it was her. But then you also asked me more than once, did you seriously vote for her every week? And I said, yes, I did. So were you believing that I was all in on Tina as well?
when you told me that at the end, I was like, oh damn, like Heather is more locked in than I thought. And I fully believe that. I was telling you because I was like, I'm just gonna be honest and try to be as honest as possible. But at the same time, if it allows some doubt because I'm being too honest with you, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense for Jonathan just to give up his game like that. I was like, great, some doubt there. But yeah, any chance I could get to like add a little bit of suspicion at the end, sure, why not?
Yeah, for sure. And I know you are a very competitive, smart player too. So I was like, no, this seems too easy. But everyone played a great game. And I honestly thought I was going to go out last round, Jessica. I told Phil in my interview, I go final two plus Tina. I said Jessica and Jonathan. I said that will be a quiz showdown.
Oh, I would have lost so
But
hard in that last quiz.
But that one, I was surprised that point advantage didn't matter.
Yeah, you didn't need it.
I didn't need it, I guess.
Wow.
Good for you.
Wow.
But that final quiz was a hard one.
Yeah.
And some of my notes probably weren't as good as they should have been because I didn't have some of those answers.
For season 2 players, I didn't do it, but do an Excel sheet and just do an Excel sheet, type it up while it's happening, like challenge names, this, everything. Cause I was like, oh, you always regret it. You're like, I wish I took better notes at the end. But I will say that everyone here was suspicious to me at one point or another. So you all did a great job, because I definitely split my answers early on every single one of you here. So yeah, there's a lot of suspicious people this season. And I was you had to really work to find out who it actually was. So Tina did a great job blending in too,
You did a very good job.
Thank you. I tried not to be too obvious, but some challenges it was hard not to be obvious. And I'll let you all know the night of the food challenge when Heather had her epic sandwich. I truly didn't have any food in the house. So
Sure, Tina.
it wasn't that I didn't bring stuff back that I had. I truly didn't have stuff.
The next day, my kid was asking to eat peanut butter on his chips because I had some ingredients.
It was fun making those sandwiches, Jessica, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great.
Hey,
You
so
could
I
add
do
it in.
actually have a question. Who were these judges that did not know that was a photo of you?
Good question.
Robbed. You're robbed. You're
Well,
robbed,
so
Heather.
the alumni group were the judges. They got to see the picture, and the main comment that I got was, Phil doesn't have a beard anymore, and Phil has a mullet.
Oh, come on, people.
So
Wow,
who were
technicality.
the voters?
The people
Heather,
in the
Heather
group.
wants to go and find them right now.
Hunt them down.
She's gonna be like trick or treat at their door,
Oh my gosh, you're gonna attack
Are you
them.
gonna delete that post before I get back into
It's
that
gone.
alumni
It's
group?
already gone. It's gone.
Phil
All
has
good.
them in witness
And who
protection.
who
Yeah.
was our
Phil,
was the
Phil,
cameraman this year?
oh, that was my one of my next questions. Yeah.
Well, our cameraman was Ron this year. It was Ron.
Oh.
Yes, but I did like that some of you were talking to Adam. That was very
Yeah.
I did look on the thing, and Heather, you were the person who got the most next who could be the mole. from the other players. That people thought it could be you. And Tiffany, you were the other person that got the most of who could be the mole.
Tiffany, you were quiet and mysterious.
So
Mhm.
mysterious.
So I was trying to figure it out. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
I was like, I've seen people play just like bewildered before, and they end up being the mole. So I'm like,
That was not an act.
could be
I'm
Tiffany.
literally bewildered on a daily basis.
I just like kept watching the camera, and I'm like, everybody else is like their face is like up near the screen, and Tiffany was like on her couch sitting back.
Yeah, way back.
And like she looks suspicious to me.
Oh.
Phil, I have two questions for you.
Definitely.
One, the mole's messages. Did Tina craft all of them herself? Were you involved? What was the deal there?
Definitely. So I told her some things that she had to talk about in the messages, some stuff that was either coming up or there was something like to do, and then she just crafted it in her language of how she wanted it said.
And my spelling.
Yeah, and then and her selling.
That sealed the deal for me, Tina, because I went through all those mole messages and I found like initially like I compared your writing style and went on your Facebook page and saw that you do 2 spaces after punctuation.
wow.
And I was like, oh, it's got to be Tina. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's not because Phil does that too. So I'm not sure. And then it wasn't until I read one of your messages and you spelled rumor, RUMOR. And I was like, that's an American. And there's only one American in this game. And that sealed the deal for me.
Yeah, you guys throw a random U in there, don't you?
We do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good catch, Jessica.
Yeah, I didn't tell anyone
Yeah,
about that.
very good.
Yeah.
And then Tina did make up the thing to fool Jonathan. Like she was just sort of instructed to do that. And there was one week where it was just my message to her was, "All right, you just got to make a message now at this point." Like
So, Tina, what was you kept putting me in like Jessica and Brandon in the messages? Was
Yeah.
that coincidence, or was there like you were trying to just, keep it
I
consistent?
wanted people's focus to be on you. And the reason I kind of threw your names out there because if I'm the mole, I want people to think, oh, I'm certainly not going to call attention to myself. So I'm going to make fun of myself, sort of thing. So it was, obviously nothing. Just your. That's all.
And Jessica, sorry, you had another.
Yeah, my other question is on your interviews with Tina, would
Yeah.
you ever like tell her like things that, somebody noticed this or somebody noticed that? Like
Not really.
okay. You stayed
No.
out.
Yeah, I did let her know in like towards the end. I did say, I think I said, "Oh, most of the players know that it's you. How are you adjusting your game and that kind of thing." But besides that, I never told her like certain people were on to her. She did get the challenge every Sunday. She would get a challenge update from me of what the challenges were going to be. But I never told her how to play it. I never even told her
Okay.
things that she could do. It was all up on her to figure out what she would like to do. I wanted to make sure that the mole played their game, and I sort of stayed out of that and
Yeah.
let them do whatever they wanted to do.
Cool.
And Phil, did you ask Tiffany to message me because you thought I would be the one most likely to break that rule?
No,
That was
I didn't pick that. That was Tina.
The anxiety and panic and guilt that I had in that moment was horrendous.
Tina, you thought
I'm
I would be
sorry,
the one to
Tiffany.
fail?
Well, it's just, Heather, you're such a sweetie. And I thought that you would feel bad for Tiffany having just been eliminated, that maybe you would break down and just say, hey, it's going to be okay. Or, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And, no worries or whatever. But Heather, her and her balls of steel, she just didn't fall for it.
I was almost crying. Like,
Oh,
awful.
I am so sorry.
You know what? I did politely say, I will miss you. And I'm sad you went, but I said, but I can't answer your questions.
It was awful.
I thought it wasn't going to be me because Tiffany did message me once before, and I was like, "Oh no, we can't." Like, I didn't message till afterwards, and we got a
That
little,
I screwed up.
we
That
got
was
we got a little
completely my
trouble for
fault.
that. Yeah, so I was like,
Oh,
"Well,
yes,
that's why it
you
didn't
should
come to
got
me
called out for that.
because I'm like that already happened once, and I didn't fall for it." So,
Yeah.
But
No,
that was not on purpose.
the only instructions I was given were pick someone who's been eliminated. It could have been anyone, and a player who's still in the game.
It was smart that you picked Tiffany, though, because it was fresh.
Hmm.
Well
And I'm
played.
sorry for the emotional duress that put you under, Tiffany. Oh, I'm sorry.
I felt bad for Tiffany. I was like, oh no, she misses already being
I
out of
was
the
like, do I
game.
have to? What if I don't do it?
And I was like, but I have to cut you off.
Oh, I didn't want to do it.
That was a good trick.
Well, thank you all. I hope you had fun playing this season. It was great having you. I honestly, I had a real good time hosting this. Wonderful cast. It's wonderful. So much fun, and I can't help but smile just thinking like it just worked out really well. And I thought you all got along really well with each other, and there was no stupid drama that came into the game. It was all good, which is nice. Winner, Jonathan, I'll get you your money Friday if that's okay. And Tina, I will get you your money on Friday as well. I'll get your information from both of you so that I can send you your money. And yeah, we'll have other games coming up in the future. Probably this year, not too much until we get into 2025. But definitely keep an eye out for that stuff because I would love to have any of you come back and play.
Oh, I will be.
As always. So wonderful.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks,
It was
Phil.
a
It was
what
so
awesome
fun.
game.
Now I'm just relaxed.